Good morning, Westside.
Good morning.
Thank you for being here today. As always, I appreciate your presence. Your presence is especially meaningful to me as I begin to offer my final reflections at Westside. After today, while I'll be present more than this on Sundays, I will be offering only 6 more reflections as minister here. I have 1 more reflection in August, 3 in September, and the 1st and 4th Sundays in October before I leave. So I hope you will be here as often as you can possibly be. Not, of course, only when I'm in the pulpit, but for very selfish reasons. I want to see you and shake your hand, hug you, and be hugged by you as often as I can before that last Sunday in October. This is a good place to be on Sundays. It is a place of love when we are at our best. And we are at our best a great deal of the time. Well, this morning I wanted to talk to you about a guy I have become a little familiar with over the last couple of months. His name is Chade Ming Khan. Ming, as he likes to be called most often, is a superlative computer engineer. He thinks like an engineer, solves problems like an engineer, and is very good at what he does. Or perhaps I should say what he used to do. You see, Ming works for Google, and whatever you think about Google as a corporation, you might very well agree with me that Google is an unusual place to work. From what I have read, they give their employees a great deal of autonomy. And employees like that. Nobody, I don't think, really likes to be supervised. And while Google requires a great deal of output from their employees, they don't seem to care how it gets done. You're just as likely to see people working out in the gym on the Google campus as playing table tennis or eating at the cafeteria where chefs prepare exquisite meals, all for free, for those who work there. You will also find people like Ming writing code for extended periods of time when they are in the zone. But Ming doesn't do that anymore. After, I think, 8 years of writing code, his business card now seriously reads, so that all will know, that Ming is Google's jolly good fellow, which nobody can deny. That is now his job title and how his business card reads. This engineer, this guy with a sort of goofy sense of humor, is now a big part of Google's talent and personal growth team. A place in the company where one does not see, nor often expects to see, someone with an engineering background. Now, are any of you in here engineers? Okay, so I will apologize in advance. Because rightly or wrongly, engineers are viewed to be very linear thinkers, seeing things as off or on, 1 or 0, black or white, with very little gray area where much of human behavior seems to take place. I mean, you've probably heard this slightly racy joke where 2 engineering students were walking across campus when one said to the other, "Where did you get such a great bike?" The second engineer replied, "Well, I was walking along campus yesterday, minding my own business, when a beautiful woman rode up on this bike. She threw the bicycle to the ground, took off all her clothes, and said, 'Take what you want.'" The first engineer nodded approvingly and said, "Good choice on the bike. The clothes probably wouldn't have fit anyway." At Google, employees are able to spend a full 20% of their working time devoted to projects outside of their core job. They can collaborate with other Googlers or work independently. Mang had been studying meditation for many years. It grew out of his Buddhist devotion, but he understood meditation did not necessarily need a religious message, and that almost everyone could benefit from a meditative practice. Even at Google, where despite its management style, one can still be under a great deal of pressure. You've all heard about meditation. Several of you here even practice it. In my experience, meditation is an attempt to slow things down, to empty the mind, to sit and to concentrate. Mang wants everybody to come to the realization similar to what we have about exercise today, but didn't necessarily that long ago. Today, though not all of us exercise, we all know there are benefits to the practice. After years of scientific research, we know just about any type of exercise does a body good. There are many beneficial results. And nobody today would call you out of touch with reality if you exercise. But the same cannot be said for meditation, not yet anyway. There are, however, a number of studies that have been conducted over the last several years which demonstrate meditators benefit from reduced levels of stress. They are generally calmer human beings. Their blood pressure is significantly lower. There is an anti-inflammatory effect. And there is increased fertility and immunity. And there is an emotional balance that is unmistakable, all due to one's ability to slow things down. So while meditation does not have the same reputation of exercise today, some believe it's only a matter of time before it does. Right now, it sort of has a reputation like this, where one day two mothers meet on the street and the first one asks how the other is, and she says, "Fine, thanks." And the first mother says, "How is your son doing? Is he still unemployed?" "Yes," the second mother replies, "but he's meditating now." "Meditating? What's that?" "I don't know," answered the woman with a shrug, "but at least it's better than sitting around and doing nothing." Ming's meditation program he developed at Google has been well received. He's written a book about the experience. He's become fairly well known inside and outside of the company. But more than anything else, you get the sense that Ming is making all of these efforts out of truly altruistic intentions. He believes in the benefits of meditation and simply wants to assist anybody and everybody who desires to better their lives through the practice and desires the opportunity to learn. If you've ever been around someone who takes meditation seriously, there is a calmness about them which I find enviable and attempt to emulate. They are not as flappable as others tend to be, and they rarely seem to say the first thing that comes to mind, but are more contemplative and seemingly able to weigh options and say things that are appropriate and mindful. Or they sometimes say nothing at all. And in a way, that all comes from the ability to just sit around and do nothing. At least that's the way it appears. But what is actually taking place is that the meditator, in a very purposeful way, is doing her best to slow everything down. And by slowing everything down, we have a chance to do something different than most. We have a chance to examine everything, to question everything, not from a reactionary stance, but from one of contemplation. And how many of us have said something we wish we could take back? Or perhaps retrieve an email when we have regrettably hit the send button too soon? Had we developed the ability to slow down or do nothing, we may not have had those same regrettable feelings. Now, no doubt in our world today, it doesn't seem easy to slow everything down, to take the time to focus on your breath, to perhaps focus on the flame of a candle, to repeat a mantra, or to consciously examine each step we take. Our mind will dart about, not allowing us to initially think of nothing. It will go from here to there and back again. At the start, it appears as though we cannot not think. In the beginning, we think about this, and then we will think about that. And it is what some have called the monkey mind. The idea behind the monkey mind is to simply acknowledge the restlessness, the fast and furious way our mind, seemingly uncontrollably, seems untrainable. And yet with just a little bit of practice, we can actually change our minds to behave in a way that is better for us and to bring about the mind back again and again to the breath, to the flame, or to the chant. Some have said this is much like riding a bicycle. Riding a bike, at least at the beginning, requires a great deal to keep balance. You must recover your balance frequently to continue moving forward and learning. After a while, though, you get better at it. There is less of a need to make drastic recoveries. And at some point, riding a bike can become effortless for many people. It is the same thing with bringing the mind back to the point of almost nothingness. Clearing the thoughts, making room for silence, to notice thoughts and then let them go again and again, until, like the experienced cyclist, the effort becomes effortless. We can all become better at slowing things down, at becoming less reactive. It is all within you to change your mind, whether you formally meditate or not. We all have the very real possibility of slowing things down, even in an age when things are moving so quickly. And in fact, I would bet most of us know in our gut that slowing down would offer great benefits to our well-being. Maine, the jolly good fellow of Google, knows, he understands, that if we are well and take an active role in our own wellness, that the individual will, of course, benefit, but so will Google. And so will those with whom the individual comes into contact. Store clerks, bank tellers, our supervisors, our significant others, those within our own religious community. Everybody benefits when we slow down and we are well. I've heard a story that is possible you have heard too before, where 3 monks decided to practice meditation together. They sat by the side of a lake and closed their eyes in concentration. Then suddenly the first one stood up and said, "I forgot my mat." He stepped miraculously onto the water in front of him and walked across the lake to their hut on the other side. When he returned, the second monk stood up and said, "I forgot to put out my other underwear to dry." He too calmly got up and walked across the water and returned the same way. The third monk watched the first two carefully in what he decided must be the test of his own abilities. Is your learning so superior to mine? I too can match any feat you two can perform, he declared loudly, and rushed to the water's edge to walk across it. He promptly fell into the deep water. Undeterred, the wet monk climbed out of the water and tried again, only to sink into the water once again. And yet again he climbed out, and yet again he tried, each time sinking into the water. This went on for some time as the other two monks watched. And after a while, the second monk turned to the first and said, "Do you think we should tell him where the stones are?" And while this is funny, in my opinion, it is also informative, because we sometimes go through much of our lives without knowing where the stones are. We receive hints along the way, but we're not sure which hints to take seriously and which to just slide by or let go of. But I'm pretty sure the idea of slowing things down is one of those ideas we should probably take seriously. In addition to the meditative suggestion, there are also therapeutic suggestions which say nearly the same thing. Slow down. Make yourself aware of your own inner dialogue. And because it is all within you, you all have the power to choose to do something different. We can change how we act and interact with others. There's a short Chinese parable that says, once upon a time in ancient China, a man on a horse rode past a man standing on the side of the road. The standing man asked, "Rider, where are you going?" The man on the horse answered, "I don't know. Ask the horse." Now this implies the rider has no ability to control the horse. It is the horse who is in control. And that is often how we think of our minds, that we cannot control our thoughts. And because of this, we cannot control our actions. But meditation helps us understand this to be false. The power to do something different or better is within all of us. Even in our world of Unitarian Universalism, there are lots of different personalities. There are positive UUs, there are crusty UUs. There are UUs who will talk your ear off, and there are UUs who are more comfortable with silence. Like our responsive reading said, you may be a Christian UU, I may be a Jewish UU, the other may be a humanist UU, gay or straight, young or old, on and on. We are so different, and yet we are very much the same. And as intelligent as we often are, we can also make the choice to do something different. Our behavior, no matter how we identify, is not set in stone. We all have choices. It is all very much within you to decide how you are going to be in the world. But no one can make you. No one can compel you or me to slow down, to contemplate, to think before we speak or write an email or send a text or however you communicate, or whether to say nothing at all. We all understand that sometimes silence is the best choice, but it is a choice. And I'm fairly certain we can all, including myself, choose to be kind more often. I hope you will choose to be a contemplative UU, a meditative UU. Someone who thinks before she speaks, someone who is able to slow things down and not be solely subjected to impulse, because I believe this will be beneficial in your work, your romantic relationships, your friendships, and in other relationships. And I also believe being a contemplative UU will be particularly important at Westside during this time of change the congregation will be experiencing. Because this is a house of love. this place you have all had a hand in building. A place, I believe, that deserves your best effort. So I sincerely hope you will make that choice. That choice that is within you and completely within your power to make. To slow things down. To contemplate. And perhaps you too will become a jolly good fellow, which nobody can deny. As we rise together in body or spirit and join in singing our closing hymn, number 345, with joy we claim the glowing light.